name's Stephen Bowman. I'd like to welcome you today as we talk about the disease of addiction. What it is, what it means to you, and what you want to do about it if you determine you have it. First of all, is addiction a choice? Is it a disease? You have to determine whether you consider it a disease or not. From 1956, it was termed a disease by the American Medical Association. That means that it is written in the journal, it is written down as a diagnosis, and it is in the DSM that medical professionals and mental health specialists use today. So that would say, to me, it's a disease. So what's a disease mean? Well, as we know, diseases are chronic. They don't go away. They are progressive if not treated, and of course fatal if not treated also and dealt with. So how do we treat the disease of addiction? We'll get to that later. Right now we just want to talk about what a genetic predisposition is. How do you know if you are in line to maybe have addiction? Grandma, grandpa addicted, maybe just grandma, maybe just grandpa, mom or dad. That's all factors that should be pretty clear to you. The thing with this is that if you're raised in the environment with addiction, and you have the genetic predisposition, you're more predisposed to be addicted. Why? Because we are a product of the environment in which we live, and a lot of times you put 2 and 2 makes 4, so you're 4 times more likely to have addiction. So you have to take all these things in consideration. So at what point does it become a choice? Well, it becomes a choice when you have all the information about addiction. For instance, your parents have taught to you that it's in the family, you have to be careful. If you drink, you could become an alcoholic or an addict. So all these things, and then you choose to use drugs. Or alcohol even, as being a drug. It's ETOH. Some will argue that, but it is a drug. So when you think about trying to determine this, you have all this information, and you go ahead and decide to, try cocaine, try heroin. Maybe that was your choice piece of it. The fact that you put the drug into the body, it's literally like a lethal combination, and it's like lighting a fire. So why light a fire if you don't have to? So why even play with it? But we're curious. Our human nature is to be curious. Why can some people drink successfully and use drugs recreationally, and we can't, people that are addicted? So the reason being is that perfect example is, say for instance, the person goes in that has back surgery, and he no history of addiction, never been addicted, and he is prescribed quite a bit of pain medication, and for a length of time, say 6 months, and he becomes physiologically addicted to the medication. Take that same person with a history of addiction, family addiction, grown up in it, and they go in it under the same circumstances. Well, if the two go the 6-month span and one decides he wants to quit, the one who's probably, definitely going to have an easier time just coming off the medication with no consequences, negative that is, would be the person who has never had a history of addiction in their family and or themselves. We don't know why that is, we just know it is. It's almost like any other disease you're predisposed to. So that's a big controversy. I've heard people my whole life say, poor choices, some choices they made. You don't make a choice unless you know. I don't know many people at all personally that have never had a glass of wine, beer, and had to take medication at some point. But if that person knew that if they did that and they were flirting with disaster, they may be a little more apprehensive about doing that. Personally, being a recovering addict of 15 years, I can say that I did not have the information. But with that said, I really appreciate my journey. And we'll get into that at another time as far as self-disclosure goes. But right now, we're just going to focus on what we're doing here with the disease of addiction. How do you know if you're addicted? Well, typically everybody knows but us. That old denial, it's not a river in Egypt. No, it's not. It is denial, and it's the human's psyche way of protecting themselves against the realization of being an addict. It's pretty much socially acceptable to drink this, this beer's for you or whatever, but to actually say I'm an addict versus even an alcoholic, the terminology in itself says a lot. It says that, well, Uncle Joe's got a drinking problem, but Uncle Rick, he's a crackhead. So, I mean, which sounds best to you? I mean, that the old joke that, an alcoholic will steal your purse, but, a crackhead or a heroin junkie will steal your purse and then help you try to find it. So I don't know. It's the old mindset of what society accepts, what norms are and what norms aren't. So, one of the things we know that the ways to determine addiction is sometimes we got to put it on paper. And if we look at our life areas, okay, number one, we're going to look at our physical. How has our health been affected by our use, okay? Number two, how about our legal? Do we have legal consequences? Are we in jail right now or an institution? A treatment center is an institution, a mental health facility, an institution. So if these things are going on and our life has been affected, our freedom has been affected, it's something to really take a hard look at. How about our spiritual? Do we even have a spiritual connection with a God, a higher power, whatever you want to call it? Do we have that relationship thing going on and a trust in that, which is really important? What about our family? Has our family been affected? Has our family tried to tell us, members in our family? Have we neglected time away from our children? Have we, do we go get off and we go have beers after work, but, we come home, later? Do we neglect our spouse? Do we neglect ourselves? Don't take care of ourselves. Don't physically take care of ourselves, but we always have time for weekend warrior party on the weekends and the old, I just have a few after work and then I just have a few on the weekends and all that stuff. So back to, the finances. How about the financial? How has it been affected? A couple DUIs, $20,000 maybe before it's all said and done. Probably affected. I've found in my experience as an alcohol and drug counselor that the alcoholic will probably struggle more with denial than the addict because it's right on the surface. The addict will do more extreme things because of the draw of the addiction, where the alcohol can be slow, depending on, now if you're talking about somebody that's drinking a half gallon of liquor a day, different story. And we'll talk more about that later, the physiological effect of the different chemicals. Alcohol does kill through withdrawal. It actually kills more people through withdrawal than any other drug known. You need to understand that when an alcoholic is going into withdrawal, their life is in immediate danger. Opiates, typically not in immediate danger. Benzodiazepines, which would be Valium, Ativan, Xanax, that class of drug. If you are physically addicted to that, your life is in danger, almost equal to that of alcohol. So these are drugs that kill through withdrawal. Heroin and opiates, you will think you're dying, and there could be some offsets to trigger some body function shutdown that could actually kill you, but usually not. It's just almost you wish you were dead. So a little different story. It's a horrible sickness. If you haven't had it, I hope that you never do. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Okay, now we're going to talk about bottoms. What is a bottom? Are they different? Yes, they are different. Number one person's bottom may be getting pulled over, getting an OVI, spending a day or two, even the night in the county poke. Another person's bottom may be losing everything that they own. It may be ending up in, county jail for extended periods of time. Their family members have, they feel abandoned them, but really just are protecting themselves. So all these things are missing from their life. They may have to have a more extreme bottom than the guy who gets a wake-up call right off the bat. It doesn't mean there's any difference in the person's ability to become further down the pike with addiction. It just means that they have seen it. Their bottom is different. As my old friend used to say, bottoms have trap doors in them, so you can always go deeper, and the deepest bottom being that of 6 foot under. So always remember that. If you feel like you're at your bottom, you may be. But bottoms, they encompass a spiritual, a physical, a psychological, everything working together as to understanding what it's going to take through a negative consequence to make us take a look at our addiction. There's nothing that is more disturbing than to see somebody sitting behind bars that is chronically addicted from watching them over years, who has no desire or even probably understands or cares about wanting to do anything different. It's sad. It is, they say jails, institutions, and death, and we know every day we read in the obituaries that it doesn't have to be in that order. You may make it to an institution and you may not. And that's the hard part to deal with. Addiction, it rips through families like a wildfire. That's what we do when we're addicted. We rip through everybody's life around us like a wildfire. But typically when an addict is using, they are so self-absorbed and self-centered that they are unable to be mature about it, and they don't see that. Or it's just the opposite. They see it, and the shame and the guilt fuels the addiction. So it's a very slippery thing and to really grasp hold of. The key is are you addicted? And if so, what are you going to do about it? Is this your chance to start over? We all get second chances, if we're watching this video, I should say, and some of us 3 and 4 and 5, 6 chances. The key is are we going to understand that this is our chance to start over, and are we going to see what's really going on with us? And are we going to do the number one thing? Are we going to admit it's a problem? And then once we've admitted it's a problem, are we going to find a solution to the problem and not stay stuck in the problem? Because while we're being stuck in the problem, again, everything is being torn away. We are destroying lives. Our lives are being destroyed. And we are tearing our body to pieces. Addiction is no joke. I mean, people are dying every day. Here in this town, I'm talking Springfield, Ohio, USA, people are dying at an alarming rate from heroin overdose. The drugs that are available today, heroin, 10 times stronger than they were 15 years ago, 10 years ago even. It's become a very big epidemic, and it's concerning and alarming. I would pretty much guarantee that if you're watching this, you know somebody or somebody very close to you has died as a result of addiction, and predominantly even heroin addiction today. As we know, the late 80s, 90s drug, crack cocaine, and cocaine, and now heroin is available in a wide variety of ways and mixes, as we know also that we don't, it's amazing that we are picky about things we drink and eat and where we go and what we do, but we'll put a needle in our arm and not even know where it came from or question it, and then we die. And it's really sad. And if you're watching this and you're alive right now, just know, my friend, that you have a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance if you've been given it. This may be your last chance, though. You may get out of jail, you may use again, and you will most likely die. Why? Well, the tolerance goes down. You've gained this tolerance of $20, $30, $50 a day, maybe even $100 to $200, and you go out and you think you do the same amount and you die. It is a vicious cycle we're seeing over and over and over here at Clark County in Springfield, Ohio. And if we're seeing it in Springfield, Ohio being the heart of it all, then it's everywhere. And it's in little towns. I know for a fact I have did support meetings and stuff in little towns where people are dying and they don't understand it. And you know what? The only ones that really need to understand it is the ones that's addicted. One of the things we do as addicts is we get clean, and we want everybody to understand our plight. Really, unless they really want to know about it and they're inquisitive about it, really the only ones that need to understand it is us. If you are diagnosed today with cancer, my question to you would be, would you investigate it? Would you take in the information? Would you make an informed decision about what you were going to do to treat this before it killed you? Okay? Something to think about. Personally, I like to compare addiction to diabetes. Why is that? Because if diabetes is diagnosed and addressed and treated properly, you can live a normal, healthy, productive life. You can also be a productive member of society. What do you do with that? You eat right, you take your medication, you get in shape, you take care of yourself. Therefore, you become a productive member of society. What do addicts need to do? First of all, they need to accept that they have addiction. Second of all, they need to figure out what they're going to do different and how they're going to treat this thing called addiction, and what it takes to get to that point. And the thing about addicts that I'm seeing over the years is addicts are gifted, intelligent, very creative people. If you don't believe me, take a trip to a state penitentiary as a volunteer or a visitor and look at some of the artwork and some of the creativity and the talent, musical and written and every kind of talent you can think of. And probably 90% of the people there were incarcerated as a result of their addiction. So if an addict comes to the realization that they are an addict and they decide they want to do something different, they will research it. They will figure out what needs to be done to get this thing treated. And if they do that, and we're going to talk about that more on the next video, what can happen? Well, they can live healthy, productive lives. They can have families. They can have children, with the children, the white picket fence, the dog named Spot, you name it, they can have it all and then some, because addicts typically are driven and they're, again, talented individuals. One of my famous things I like to hear people say is, you just don't look like the type. Well, what's an addict look like to you? Because to me, there is no stereotype of a way an addict should look, and there's no profile for an addict. A lot of people are using right in plain sight and we don't even know it, okay? Hollywood to Main Street, they're using. And so with that said, we're going to move on and talk next video about how you treat addiction.